Good morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock and welcome to OrangeNXT webinar series. We're here today to dive into the strength of cognitive search, but before we begin, there are some house rules. The webinar will be recorded. So after the webinar, we will share the deck along with the recording. There is a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So if you would love to get answers to one of the questions, please do so. And if you find any technical difficulties, please use the chat or send an email to info@orangenext.com. Yep. So my name is John Coat. I'm the Director of Alliances within OrangeNXT. We are part of the ICT Group, and the ICT Group is a 40-plus year company that has more than 1,400 people. They mainly speak the domain knowledge in the OT world. They are coming from the OT world as well, and we use that domain knowledge that they have and the dialect that they speak in a way within OrangeNXT, where we purely focus on product development. Using that product development and the domain knowledge from our mother company, it really helps us to deliver those products to the market. So today I will be also talking about Corona. So COVID-19 is, I think, the real problem that we are facing at the moment. The way that we are doing a webinar is one of, let's say, the minimum things that we are seeing as an impact in the world. But also there are more challenges to overcome as well. I have stated a quote on the screen, and it said, like, bad companies are destroyed by crisis, good companies survive them, and great companies are improved by them. That said, basically, this webinar will go into the strength of cognitive search and how cognitive search, in my opinion, can help you battle that COVID-19 war that we're all in. In my opinion, cognitive search will help organizations strengthen their cash-out position, lower their liabilities, but also provide their better product utilization. But it will be not myself that will do the talking. I want to do an introduction to our guest. So first of all, I want you to introduce to Bhavik Tucker. He's the head of digital business of Royal IHC. Bhavik, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your company, where you work for, and what for products and services that you are providing?
Sure, John. First of all, thanks for having me today for this webinar series. Happy to share my thoughts on our experience thus far in this webinar. So myself, as you already introduced, my name is Bhavik Tucker, and I've been working for Royal IHC and leading a digital business team. And in Royal IHC, we started digital business team sometime back with a focus on creating products which can help us improve customer experience, and also coming up with, let's say, new revenue stream with the help of new digital technologies which are upcoming in the market. So that's what my team does. And to give you a bit of a background of Royal IHC, we are active in offshore, we are active in dredging, we are active in mining markets. So these are the three primary markets where we are active. And what we do essentially is provide equipments to a lot of project management players, a lot of operators in these particular markets. So we build ships, also equipment. So think about dredging ships. We are quite well known in the world for dredging ships. In the offshore market, we work in a niche of cable and pipe-lay vessels. And in the mining, we provide different kind of mining equipments and tools. So that's to give you a bit of a background of Royal IHC. And Royal IHC is, there is a tag Royal in the name of the company, so you can already basically say that it's quite a historically significant company for Netherlands per se. There's quite some history, and mainly it's coming from the dredging market. We have been very active there. If we speak about the numbers today as well, I think more than 40% of the value of the dredgers sold in the market usually comes from IHC, just to give you a bit of background. And it's around 3,000 to 3,500 people doing a revenue of around $1 billion a year. That's basically to give you a bit of a background. And as I said in the beginning, my team, we have been focusing on building ships and equipment, and now we are entering into a digital world, and it's responsibility of me and my team to bring IHC to the new digital world.
Very good. Well, welcome, and thank you to interrupt your vacation to be here. I pretty much appreciate it, of course. The other guest that I have in the webinar is Kitting Lee. Welcome, Kitty. You're the Director of Business and Innovation at Royal IHC. For you, the same question.
Okay. Thank you, John. Also very nice and pleased to be here and to be invited to do this webinar together with you. My name is Kitty Lee. I'm working already 16 years within the Royal BAM Group. BAM is a construction company. We are present in 5 Western European home countries, being headquartered in the Netherlands, but also in UK, Ireland, Germany, and Belgium. We have around 20,000 people within the BAM Group and have a yearly annual turnover of around 7 billion of turnover. Mainly what we are present is in the housing and property sector, but also the infrastructure. We have 2 main divisions, the housing and property one, and also the infrastructure one. What we do is we design, we build, and we also maintain assets. And what we want to do is to create assets, but also to maintain them and contribute to a better living society. That is what Royal BAM does, and specifically towards what I do within the company. Within the last 2-3 years, I focused on how we can embrace technologies to improve our operational excellence and how to create new digital services. And one of them is content search, what we will discuss.
Very good. Yeah. Well, welcome again. And also very much appreciate that you spare your time with us and to share your journey also to the attendees here in the webinar. Yeah. So before I start, and I will be the moderator of this webinar, I want to make setting the scene, let's say, for why cognitive search is so important to battle the COVID-19 war. But just collecting data doesn't bring you directly the value or the business value that you would love to have in your organization. So making sense of a world of data, that is basically the crucial thing that we need to do. So there are some challenges that we foresee at our clients, and those challenges are more related to, we see that a lot of our customers, enterprise grade, but also medium small businesses, they have a very broad IT infrastructure. The IT infrastructure itself is fragmented, it's siloed, there's a lot of information residing in those data silos, but to get the information out of these data silos is a pretty, let's say, pain in the ass to do so. It takes a lot of time, and they cannot correlate structured and unstructured data together so that they can use it also in analysis. You see some numbers on the screen with 40 trillion, 73%, 80%. Those are all numbers that will basically backing up my vision that I also see as within OrangeNXT at our customers. They are coming from a variety of studies. Prior to the webinar, we have asked to the attendees to send in some of the questions. And as a moderator, of course, I need to ask questions to my colleagues at the left and the right. So if I see those challenges, one of the questions that we received was, what kind of challenges do we see at, for instance, Royal BAM, or for instance also at Royal IHC? So the question to you, Bavik, can you elaborate a little bit on the challenges that you have seen? Do you see the same thing that I am seeing? What was happening in your organization?
Yeah, so I think you'll be talking about the data silos, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at Royal IHC, as I mentioned in the introduction, that we build ships, and the lifetime of a ship is around 20 years, 25 years, 30 years.
Yeah.
You can imagine we built ship 10 years back. And if a customer calls us with an information to ask for a ship which we have built 10 years back, asking for some information or a service request, we need to find that information with respect to that particular ship. Now think about the challenges. You need to maintain that record over 10 years, but over 10 years, organizations change, processes change. And there are also a lot of mergers and acquisitions of new companies coming in your organization, which means your landscape of where you store the data and documents keep on scattering. That's how naturally the processes sometimes evolve. And we see that challenge at IHC as well. We use many systems, so data and documents are spread a bit between different systems. And if I get a call from a customer, and if the question is very open. If I have to look for a particular information, I have to first know in which system the document is, and I need to know how to operate that system. I need to dive into that system to find that particular document and then dig into the information. If I don't find it right, then I go to another document and again go through the same process. So you can imagine how labor intensive the process is.
Yeah.
So that was one of the main challenges which we identified. To do our to provide better customer experience. When customer asks question to us, we should be able to come back to them within, let's say, no time,
Yeah.
So that's basically the challenge we started solving with this particular cognitive search product.
Well, thank you for sharing. And your challenges,
Yes.
Kitting.
I really recognize the challenge what you described, Mavik. Actually, from our perspective, we have 3 challenges. One of them is just as described by Mavik, that we also have mergers and acquisitions, have several IT systems, and in order to find relevant information, it's very hard and labor intensive to do it. Second challenge what we have a lot of projects, construction projects, design projects, either maintenance projects. All of them have their separate document management system or environment to keep data and documents. In order to be able to look on portfolio levels on how we perform or what the experiences are over the projects abroad, that's very difficult because they are stored everywhere within the IT landscape.
Yeah.
So that is the second challenge. How can we learn from all the projects as a company? And the third challenge, because we're in construction industry, we often work for governments and we are often in bid procedures. It is a challenge is to, within a very short time frame, for example, 2 months, 3 months, or even half a year, we will receive thousands documents by the government or the client, and we need to process them. We need to analyze them, and that's a big challenge that did we read everything what we need to know? Did we tackle all the issues, the risk or opportunities?
Yeah.
And can we provide a sound bid which is solid? And that is a huge challenge. And due to these 3 challenges, we think, hey, we need to find another solution which can help us to improve and accelerate our search and find.
Yeah. Very good.
Very recognizable.
Very recognizable.
Very recognizable, yes.
Very good. Thanks for sharing, Kitting. So, seeing all those challenges coming along, I think it is also the opportunity to do something with technology. And basically what I see there is that if you could harness the information to really get the information out, that is, I think, the thing that we need to do. You see a lot of text on the slide, but basically the narrative that I wanted to share with you is like the things that really matters here is that the search behavior of the human being, the strategy that they do, that is what you need to capture in what we call a skill set. If you can capture it in a sort of algorithm that can be deployed on, let's say, a cloud platform, those are typically the things that we would love to do. That will help, of course, to tear down those data silos just by connecting and extracting this metadata out of this data silos. Learning how people are doing now their job and how it is labor intensive to do so, and how can we let's say, automate for them so that you don't have to consult your customer or your colleague or have to consult other vendors to get the information out. And even if you can then correlate this structured and unstructured data together, that really helps in the finding the information rather for searching the information. In a sense, you're getting the right information at the right time, at the right person. By tearing down those silos, it eventually also directly increases accessibility, of course, for everybody in the organization. So the impact is not only what we just heard from Kitting and also from Bavik. The impact is, let's say, all over the industries, what we see. There are, of course, many industries that are affected by COVID-19, and they are pulling the handbrake like, okay, guys, let me see what is going on. How can we do better things? How can we reduce our liabilities? How can we basically cut down all the out-of-pocket money that we are spending? So we identified basically 4 pillars in where cognitive search and where we have built a product for that really helps customers to find the information rather than search for the information. The 4 pillars that I just highlighted in the deck is they are from legal, they are coming from operation, and I've stated some of the use cases that we see. Today, I have Kitting and Bavik around the table, and they have both a use case. One is coming more from the sales, what Kitting just explained, bid management, tender management in general. Those are typically things that we see at many customers. They are living from winning the tenders, and they don't have the manpower. Even if you are looking into your work, we are all working at home. We don't always have a connection to the office. How can you be a successful bid team to do so? So that is what we're going to go into during this webinar. And if you take a look at what the story that Bavik just shared about the better service, be a better client for your customers, is really to optimize the service department. And that is also the thing where you can really see and hear a lot of things there. And that is also what I will try to elaborate, and hopefully they will share more knowledge in the webinar. So again, pretty much appreciated that you guys are here, because I think all the attendees here in the webinar, it will really help. So what you see here, what I already pronounced, is that we go a little bit deeper in the case studies, or let's say the use cases in this one. So BAM and IHC will share their things, and just remember, if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We have some Q&As. We already have some questions received from customers that we will highlight in the webinar. But if you have very important questions, we will answer them. If we don't have the time during the webinar, we will provide you the answer afterwards, of course. So the first question that I want to ask is, let me start with Bavik, of course. Can you tell a little bit about your solution, how it is used?
So I think, as I was describing, the challenge we started solving was to improve our customer experience during the service phase of our customer journey. And the way the solution today is used is basically what we try to do was we try to bring in the scattered, let's say, the data from different systems in one place, and make it easily searchable. And I think we did this together, so probably you know the target we set was, can we reduce from document searching from minutes to seconds? Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that the solution, whatever right information is searchable within 2 to 3 seconds by the users. So as we speak today, our customer support team, our service engineers, they use the tool extensively. And basically when a customer gives a call about asking for a certain parts or certain certificates, documents, the first thing they do today is go to the tool, the cognitive search tool, and it's just a simple dashboard, like a Google search. You just search for it, you get your search results, and basically you can start digging into the details of the information you want to find. So that's how it has been used. So basically what it has done is that I, rather than searching in 3-4 different systems, I'm able to search in one window very quickly. And the most important thing is that the search understands the domain specific terms. So that's how it has been implemented. I think this is also the power of this tool, that now if I type dredge pump, it knows what a dredge pump is and where to search for a dredge pump and what could be the related documents around a dredge pump. But if I use let's say generic, let's say if you do a Google search, they have infinite amount of content. Also, people are optimizing their content so that Google is able to search better. But in the industry, we don't have that luxury. So you have to put that smartness in the algorithm, which is going to search or contextualize your documents. And that's probably what we try to do in this particular solution, that it understands your context.
So in a way, you are basically then capture the domain knowledge of your service engineers. So you capture the service engineer searches with the terminology they are used to, in their domain knowledge, the vocabularies which they are used to and familiar with. And it is able to search documents which previously it used to take them some minutes
or maybe even sometimes they wouldn't even find it first stretch. They have to ask a colleague. Now they're able to figure it out within seconds.
Yeah.
So that's probably what we see is happening on the floor today. So extensively used by customer support and service engineers.
How many data sources is the information in?
So
do you know a number of that one?
Yeah, for now we have connected around 6 databases, which is sending in the information. And yes, you have to build connectors and start expanding it. But as we speak today, it's 6 data sources. But you have to understand one of the data sources is all the shared folders.
Yeah.
And when we talk about the shared folders, there are folders and folders and folders.
It's completely nested, probably.
It's always completely nested. Some engineer puts a document somewhere and then they forget about it.
Yeah.
And then to find that document,
that's quite hard.
It's really hard if the engineer is gone.
Yeah.
So what you also see that is if people who are in the organization for a very long time who knows exactly where the document is, sometimes they go to their old, let's say, system and they know where to find it and they go there. But if somebody comes new, they always start with this system because rather than learning 5 different systems, they just go to one tool and start finding documents there.
Very good.
So basically, that's how I see it's being used.
So the onboarding of new engineers that has less experience than the old guard,
it goes quite fast, and they are also used to it. It basically fits to their philosophy of how the information is to be found.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, we are all used to Google search.
Exactly. So basically, it very naturally flows for them. Oh, you're supposed to search an information. There has to be a Google tool.
Yeah, exactly.
They expect it.
Expected that one. Expect the same behavior. Let's say.
Yes.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. And you yourself, Kipping, can you elaborate a little bit on the same question in your, let's say, use case where you are using it?
Yes, sure. I must say that I think Bafik and IHC has a much broader experience because it's, I think, already implemented broader in organization.
Yeah.
And that would be a very nice next step what we want to achieve. We defined it actually a small scope for one tender team. And maybe to dive in a little bit, the challenge within the tender team. You have, of course, big bits and also small bits. But in general, you receive documents from the client, you need to analyze it. What can happen is you let it free to the team and please read all the documents, or if it's 1,000 or even 10,000, 20,000 documents, sometimes we will say we create a team, you read these documents, you read these documents, and you read it because it's impossible to read all of them by one person. But what happens, and then comes also the domain knowledge, a big team, they have to look at the documents from design perspective, from construction perspective, from maintenance perspective, or legal or financial, all kind of different perspective. You want to search, you want to read them and also find information which you can use to create your bid. And therefore, it is hard when you ask me to read something. I say this is interesting, but it can be that it's not interesting for you, or you are searching for other information. And that is the reason why we want to search for technology and tooling which help us, where you can create the domain knowledge and we define the scope. Actually, the first aim is how can it help us to find things quickly, also really find things, because when you read something and after 2 to 3 weeks or a month, you think, hey, where did we read something and how can we find it there?
Exactly.
Definitely that aim is defined, and that is also achieved during the pilot period with the team. But the second thing is also to create domain knowledge and put it in the algorithm, and that really helps us for the next bid team and the other teams to really quickly search based on domain knowledge. So the solution is actually the same. You have to actually use like a Google search page. And what you really is a benefit is that you can find things and refine things, but also the related documents. That is really a benefit to have that very easily and an overview of it.
It's good that you bring it up because the related documents is something quite relevant for us as well. Because when customer asks us certain questions, you always talk about certain drawings, right? And when we look into certain drawings and diagrams, you want to look at the most recent version of it. So if you are searching into the older version and if there is no related document telling you, hey, you're not looking into the most recent version, then you have a problem.
You're not basing on the last details or the last fact.
So I recognize that.
Yes.
I see that there are some questions coming in, so keep up the good work. But we will continue, of course, with the questions, and I have the questions here. So It's completely hands-on here, so we've tried to share as much information as possible in the time that we have. So the second question that came in prior before the webinar was basically what business challenges were you facing? Well, we already shared a little bit about the challenges, and I asked what the challenges, what I have seen. So what I hear from you, Bob, it was more related to, okay, we have a lot of data. It's again, in a lot of data sources. You need to consult a lot of, let's say, application managers to get the information out. You really would love to provide the customers better answers faster and pretty much helping your operational excellence being better, but also let's say reduce the time to answer. So we'll probably also maybe I'm suggesting the liabilities will also will be reduced. But I can imagine that in your case that reducing of the time that the service engineer is not doing searching but helping the customer is a real benefit. Do you see any more challenges or business challenges that you have seen, what you would love to share that you didn't, well, let's say, elaborate on in the previous slide?
I think when we started with the challenge of solving issues for our services team, that how can they provide services better? And one of the big challenges was information finding in that.
Yep.
But I can very well see the challenges which Keating just described in the tender management. In our project management, we also do big project managements to find the right information for the project management team at the right time, and also retrospectively the lessons learned when you start new projects from the dearth of information you have created in projects. So it's a search solution. It's a smart search solution. So as long as you can train an algorithm to find right information for you, I see multiple challenges which we can solve within the organization. But for us, this was the start, and now we have to basically expand.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe it's directly one of the questions that came in was, is it also possible to search in scanned files?
It is.
Yeah. Very good.
I think I was just mentioning the life cycle of ships is 10 years, 20 years, and systems evolve. And previously there were a lot of scanned files, drawings and drawings. That's how the documents were stored.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of documents have been scanned in our databases as well.
Okay.
So I think one of the most powerful thing about this thing is that you are able to search within the scanned files. So you first crack open the document, and then as you will search in a normal PDF, you are able to search in a scanned file. It depends on the accuracy of your algorithm to judge the scanned document.
Yeah.
But it's very well possible, and this was one of the things we were really looking for.
Yeah. So really extracting images and text and correlate those two together to provide this cognitive search behavior that we as a human being can do as well.
Precisely, you can filter on the text which is in the scanned file. So that's what we were looking for.
Very good, very good.
In addition to that, because you're mentioning drawings, what really is also a benefit is in our industry, but I can imagine in each drawing you are identifying drawings with numbers or with coding. With kind of text or things which a normal person will not understand what it is. Yeah. So if you want to search for a structure like a bridge somewhere, I can type in the name, but because it's correlated to a serial number or whatever, you will find all the drawings. It will search within the drawings or pictures, and that is really nice that you can combine several things with one word or one sentence, and you can identify the several documents which relate to the specific asset or information. That is really powerful.
Good addition. Yeah. So also for you, Keating, what I remembered what you just highlighted during the slide that I didn't pronounce all the challenges that I have seen. The use case that you are describing is, let's say, we call it tender management. Let's say, so a lot of big tenders, small tenders, a lot of documents, less documents, a lot of additions on documents that will reflect on all the documents in front of it.
Yes.
To have, what I also mentioned, I think the tender teams are not sitting in the office. Mm-hmm. A lot of the team will sitting at home as well. Mm-hmm. So to really be a very effective team, I think this is a business challenge at the moment. Mm-hmm. To well, with the time, and I think it's the opposite that I heard from Bavik. They want to spare time because they answer faster to a service call. It's better, but in your essence, it's like you don't have the time to go through all the documents, and then then say, okay, on my gut feeling, I have 1,000 documents to do. I just have 5 people in my tender team. I cannot read through all those documents, so I know this customer, I know this tender, how it is written. I can imagine that it sometimes it's like that people will judge on.
If you want to avoid that.
Yeah, but I can imagine because sometimes the time is in a real time pressure. You need to deliver something in time, otherwise you're definitely will not win the tender again. Is there any other business challenges that you see in your case?
Yes, indeed. One is actually what we also aim is to save time. Yep. By saving time, we can let our bid teams or project teams to focus on the things what they are good at. Yeah. They're not good at to find things because they are really good at the technical knowledge or whatever to find solutions and not to read documents. Let's say. So that really helps us to bring them into position to really do their job and do their work. Now, another thing what we already experienced and I really believe by being able to put some domain knowledge into algorithms, making them smart to find things, because in order to be able to identify what I need to know, it requires many years of experience to say that. And technical people or even experienced people, they're scarce. We have a lack of scarce specialists actually. And I hope the combination by putting some domain knowledge into algorithm, it really can also help new people, younger people, to really find the relevant things, which in other cases they need years of experience to create it or to create the knowledge. Yeah, and that is another benefit what I really believe in. We didn't experience it yet because we did it on 1 bit or 2 bits, but I believe that would be definitely a huge future as well.
It's some sort of synergy between the 2 use cases. That it's all about knowledge. It's all about how people use their experience to get the right thing at the right place. And it's also the tool. How the tool is used is also to help you as a company to survive in the future, because your knowledge of the people that are, let's say, the great finders or the great tender winners, it's captured in those tools, and it will not be a waste if they are leaving the company or retire, or worst case scenario when they are dying from something or something like that. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Very good. So the other question that we received prior for the webinar was, what are the lessons learned? And I see that one of the other questions are coming in, but I will read that one. But that question, Bavik, can I ask you, can you share for all the attendees what the lessons learned are?
So I think basically it's you always say start with a bigger picture in mind, start small. And I think it's been said enough, so I just want to repeat that. I think everybody understands that start with a bigger picture, start small, but really start small and then start growing it. What we initially observed was that when we started with this idea, what you see is that we wanted to we thought this can be used by the whole services department. All the people on the workflows can start using it. Yeah. And when we initially created our business case, was based on, let's say, all the people in our service department which are using it, because everybody's searching for the information. Over time, when we implemented it, what you start or like, let's say in the process of implementing it, so you start learning a lot about the product itself, where it is something which we didn't recognize in first, what were the really added value, and you start discovering new things. What we started discovering was that one of the things which I have mentioned before, that the younger people who were coming in, they liked the tool, they started using it very fast, and for them it was like a very quick win to just start getting familiar with the system quite fast. The second thing which we realized was that people who have been using one system, which we also made a part of our business case. Not everything is always positive.
Sure.
For example, if I'm using only one ERP system and that I need only that system for my job, then I continue usually using that system and do not go to a tool like cognitive search. Usually, except I'm a newcomer. But if I'm using more than 2 or 3 systems to look for my information on daily basis, then my first preference is the cognitive search. So all these nuances, you learn a lot once you've implemented it over time. In terms of the time it saves to the people as well, for people who are who knows where the documents are in the company for a very long time, the time it saves is a bit lesser. For newcomer, it saves a lot of times. And also for people who have to search information in different systems very fast, like for example, customer support team, they get very random questions from customer. And then for them, this saves a lot of time. A service engineer usually works with some specific systems, which they know where the documents could be. And if it's an experienced service engineer, they know it. Then it saves a limited time. But those nuances of your business case become very clear to us. But overall, still what we observed was that it created quite a big impact where on an average, it was able to bring down the search time to almost 50% of the total search time. And we did a study where let's say on an average, our staff was spending almost 20% of their time, 25%, I don't remember the exact figure, of their time on searching for documents. And if you're saving 50% of that time, of the total time, that's a huge gain for your business, right? So those were some of the key lessons we sort of discovered over time.
And did you also experience, I can imagine, because it is used already in your company within kitting, it started with a pilot. I can have a feeling that it is also it is really pure digital transformation. So that's all everything to do, and you just touched it a little bit about if you're a newcomer, you will use the tool directly, and if you're an old one in the company, then probably you will not use it because the adaptation is quite hard. Did you find any, let's say, struggle in the acceptation of tooling, so changing behavior in the organization? Can you share a little bit on that?
I think that's a good question, but I just want to mention it's not about old and young, it's about somebody coming new in the organization, and it's not about really the age, how familiar you are with the systems in the
more
company.
familiar.
So because I saw some, let's say, people who have been let's say, quite old people also adopting tool quite fast. But yes, but there is always an affinity for younger generation to use new digital tools. But coming back to your question on the adoption part, I think that was something we took quite seriously. How are we going to go about doing the adoption? So I think over there, the process we followed, I think it would be nice to elaborate on that. That we actually brought along our services team right throughout the process. So basically, when we did our first study to find the, so we did like a time and motion study with the department. So the department was participating in calculating how much time we are actually spending in searching. So when the figure came out, so then everybody is at least familiar with how we are spending quite some time as a team on searching for information. So that was like, let's say, a cube-like movement. You communicate with the team, and then throughout the development process of the tool, step by step, because we do work agile. So at the end of every sprint, when we created demo sessions, we demoed it to the entire team. And we released the pilot beforehand for the team to start using it, practicing it, getting familiar with it, start providing us feedback before the product was finalized. So I think the biggest learning is to release it as fast as possible, so that people can start using it and start providing you the feedback, but set the expectations right, because when you release it initially, not all the things are there. So expectation management is the key, in implementing the new product within your organization. So I would say, yes, it's a challenge to bring in new digital, but I think it's always a challenge to bring in change within a company. And when you are going and you want to do it effectively, it's all about expectation management. So manage the expectation, communicate very clearly what is possible and what is not possible with the tool. And bring your team along right from the beginning of the project, explaining them constantly why you are doing it. So once the problem statement is clear to the organization that why you are doing it, we are spending 25% of time just searching. If the problem statement is clear, then you know that those people will be behind you.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. And for yourself, Kitten?
It's good to have a separate meeting to
So I think we're going to have a quick learning from Bavik how the adoption can be smoothly within the Royal BAM.
And it's recognizable. The funny thing to see, maybe what we focus on during the pilot and proof of concepts is really create a small scope, which is realistic and achievable in order to show some quick wins. Because we also define the reason why we want to go through this project is to experience what benefits it could deliver to the BIT team. The funny thing is because it is so comparable to what we usually do with Google that after they see it and they use it, they are asking, is this possible? Is this possible? Telling them why it will help you, and then that was not really the challenge to spend time on that part. But what really was a challenge and also lessons learned is to explain to them it is not created for the domain or the sector what we are in. So we need to put effort to train them to develop it in order to have the right search and find the solutions, because they will think, oh, this is like a holy grail, a magic box like Google. I've asked something and I will get the right fit, but this is not. If the domain knowledge is not there, if the coding is not there, if the documents are not trained with it, and that is something that they really recognize that is needed to put effort to train them to develop it, and then get the maximum value out of it. But we have a whole list of extensions, what we want to do, create or expand. So that's one part to really understand that you need to spend time on it, how to train your behavior into a model. Because normally we do things unconsciously, we do things because we are used to do
second nature.
But to ask them, how do you search? I just search. What do you mean?
What do you mean how?
But that's a very good point, because I think that brings me to a small just addition to the story I said, because in order to precisely do that, you need to collect the business feedback. So I think a small team of business experts who can work together with the product owner and business owner can really help. And I have to give credits to my business owner here and also to product owner who are leading the project. And that they did a great job in bringing these people along. Where from business owner, so the business owner was the manager of the department, pushed people towards the change, and the product owner who was leading the development of the product was also collecting the feedback continuously with a small, let's say, early adopter group that, hey guys, is this working for you? Is this not working for you? Is this working? In every 3 weeks when a new thing comes in, you're like, this is working for you, this is not working for you. And then you keep on, and it never ends. You constantly improve. At some point you want to stop it, but you can do so much with this product. So
but communication is key. What I hear you say
is the key. Expectation management.
Expectation management to keep your, let's say, business owner happy, that he sees that you are doing the right thing with the teams on the floor. Let's say.
Yes.
And funny what you said is like we started with a pilot and we just get familiar about and just pronouncing like, so how do you search? What do you mean with how? And now they are using it, and you said we have a big list of expansion that we would love to do. In a sense, this really helped them to spark the imagination, like, oh, okay, if this is really going to, if this is really possible, really technical possible, in how I now know how I search, can you then also do this? Because for a human being, it is quite hard to do so because we don't have, let's say, the compute power in our brain to do so. I can imagine that is also an eye-opener from your side, like, oh, okay,
Yeah, definitely. The funny thing is because cognitive search is one of the technology we embrace. But in the beginning, I thought this was one of the most difficult because it is unstructured data. It is something new and machine NLP, so it is not really tangible. But I must say that people using it they really quickly recognize the benefits of it compared to, for example, image recognition or computer vision, other technologies. They we really need to convince them what the benefits are and how it works and what this. But this is luckily, I must say, they recognize the benefits and they are thinking together. Hey, but I also want to have geolocation, but also I want to comparison of revision. What is the difference between the two? So they come up with all new kind of features what they want to have as a solution.
Very good. Let me see for The next question that we have received, and I see my assistant writing down a lot of other questions, so hopefully I will manage to answer them all. I'm not sure how we are on time, but the question is, what positive impacts are you seeing right now? Well, you already elaborate a little bit on it.
I did, but I can add one more thing. I think, yes, we are saving a lot of time. From our heavy users, we already save quite some time. But what you see another impact is that previously you would call, let's say, your colleague to ask the question about, hey, where is this information located when the question comes in. Now the call is bit turned around and you say the information is already with you. Let's say if you're a customer support, information is already with you. When you call, you are asking an expert about the details of explaining of the questions about the content itself.
Yeah.
And you don't no longer asking where the content is stored. So already saving the first question in the line. So your discussions suddenly become very valuable. Your calls become suddenly valuable. It's a very intangible benefit. But it's very valuable, because when you make a call, if I make a call to you, hey, where is this document constantly, rather than say, can you explain me this? And it becomes valuable and engaging conversations,
The question that we received on the chat was, that's great impact. How did you measure the 50% time saved? Can you elaborate a little bit on it?
We did a time and motion study. So I talked about, that's why I took credit to business owner there. The business owner was quite strict to measure the impact. Is the tool really adding the value as well? And product owner executed it. So basically, we did a time and motion study where we recorded the activities. So we asked normal questions which customer asks to our customer support team and the service engineers, what kind of questions on regular basis they come. We created a list of questions and then asked the team to find that particular information with the cognitive search and with their existing means, which they do. And then on an average, what we saw that the search was going 50% faster, whereas we didn't train them how to use the search tool at all. So that was basically how we try to check it. Ask the common questions they are getting anyways on a regular basis.
Very good. Hope that answered the question that was raised during the Q&A. We have 10 minutes left, so can you share some positive impacts on what you're seeing right now?
Specifically, I would love to be able to say that we have tangible measurements. Will come. So I really look forward also to the test plan and how you have created that method. But what I experienced is the positive impact from, for example, the legal department. They are already giving us the feedback that they are much more able to understand all the documents and easily find it to focus. Actually, normally in a big team, for example, maybe 20, 30, or maybe up to 40% of time you are reading documents and trying to understand it and then translate it into solution, for example. And now you have a shift that you maybe 20% of the time or even less to search and find it, and then focus on how can we manage the risk or how can we create opportunities to deliver a sound bid for our client and also for ourselves. So we already experienced from the legal and the financial and also the construction colleagues that they say, hey, I can spend more time on creating a sound bid or creating or managing my project or whatever. And that is already a good shift, not really tangible as in time saving or whatever, but what they really experience, because they can, in the past, they maybe are 2-3 hours they are on day searching for things. Oh, where did we read it? Or indeed, I need to call my colleague because I couldn't find things. And that is what they already experienced, that they do not need to do that anymore, or much lesser.
Very good. Thanks for sharing. So we have received some Q&As. So let me read some of the Q&A. So I think it is still possible to send in the questions if you have any questions. I see a nod, so yes, it is. So a question that I received was, and I think it is more related to security and who is able to access, so accessibility. So maybe I think more related to you, Babik. How can you make sure that the support engineer can only see support engineer documents and not go into like give me the wages of the CEO, let's say, because I think it's possible. If it is in one of the data sources that
you have to be transparent about your
it's somewhere documented, of course, but yeah, you know what.
No, but I understand.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a good one because yes, indeed, that was one of the biggest. One of the biggest concerns we had was how are we going to do security management, because we talked about that we connect to 6 different systems, and within those systems also there is 6 security management, right? Who can access what? So one strategy could be to inherit that access rights, that you just inherit the access rights of the system. So if I have access to that particular document in that system, then I get access to that particular document. Also in Sherlock. So that's one strategy which you can do. So which would mean that you bring everything to the cognitive search tool and then manage security there. Second strategy which we started with was that our main ambition was to break silos, because of the process and everything, and because of the different systems, there are already certain silos created by the system, and that a service engineer cannot access a document from another department and from another department because how the things have been structured, and not necessarily because it's not supposed to have access, but the way it has been structured. So what the strategy we adopted was that we hid some sensitive data, the contractual information, the salaries, and all those things. Why do we want to even put this to the cognitive search? That was the question we asked, because it's information relevant for few HR people, or let's say few sales people who want to have access to that contractor, but keep it limited to that. It's not, let's say, information for her. So that is, you eliminate certain risky documents, which you just don't bring it to the tool at all. And then another thing is that you can create a very high level. That's what we tried to do, was that we created a very high level security management within the tool itself to say that this document types are accessible for this particular roles.
Got it.
Simple. So, and we also are a project organization. So we work on different projects. So we divided our security management into 3 parts. One is the role you have, the project you are working, and the last part is basically the document type you have access to. Do you have access to all the purchase orders? Do you have access to all the drawings? Do you have access to all the spare part lists, for example? So that's how we managed, but we kept it very high level because our ambition was to dissolve the silos which existed, keep the sensitive information out of this tool. That's the principle with which we started, and do not make security management too complex in the tool. Simple.
Got it.
That's how we manage security.
Very good. One of the other questions that we received was, and if I interpreted right, is can we share a little bit on how a use case is? How does the project? How do you started the project? Let's say so. What was the engagement model? You have this business benefit and this business challenges. And those business challenges can convert to, well, if we can hit those business challenges, we will have business benefits. And how can you share a little bit, maybe you or you, Kitting, or both, can share a little bit on how did you start
how to define the first scope
to do so, and that you also, I think, the key point here again is, I think, is also to keep your business owners also happy, that also the communication lines are good, that you're investing, because especially now in COVID times, you can invest your money that is already scarce. Definitely once, and it needs to really bring in business value, otherwise you will kill your organization. Someone wants to elaborate on it first? You maybe can?
Sure. What we did actually, if you look at defining the scope, we did 3 things. One is from like more a vision perspective or a strategy perspective. Why do we want to embrace new technologies? How do we see that? And how can we become more and more data-driven company? And there's one part to telling people it's not only to find a short solution, whatever, but there's a line with the digital transformation, what we aim to do. That is one part of the story. But the other part is, of course, we need to define what the quick wins can be. And in this case is, of course, time saving. and also reducing failure costs by not having read some things or whatever. So these are two main focus on, hey, what is the short-term benefit? What can be presented or be tested within a project team or pilot team or tender team, whatever it is. This is so you have the main vision from strategy perspective to tell them why do we want to make a transition adopting new technologies. However, we understand that the bid team, we need to create value for them during the bid phase, etc., and what could be time saving, failure rules, knowledge transfer, what it is. And what we also did is to find ambassadors and sponsors.
Yeah.
Ambassadors, they are really passionate about adopting new things and pushing it forward.
Yeah.
And sponsors, not only financially, but also, and that is the bid team, we find really colleagues who really are committed that they really want to test them as a sponsor, both financially, and if you're committed financially, also from your team and your people. And that is what we created, and then together with the sponsor team or the bid team to define what is the scope, what really helps you, what is in line with our strategy, and then that is the project brief what we described and created.
Yeah,
for our case.
And I can imagine that is an agile way of working. It's not from the beginning. It's set in stone. It's like learning all along the way.
Exactly, and also when you define the scope, like what we did during the process, still you face, oh, what we thought in the beginning was nice, but still, so indeed we work agile and with sprints, and that you can adjust something, or let's say, hey, this is a main change. We park it, we put it on the list as the next. Then that is the new way we also adopt in developing.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from our side, the start was of scoping basically strategically. Yes, I think it's a similar story, so I won't elaborate on that, but it starts. Yes, strategically it was necessary for us to think about what are the common challenges or problems which we can solve with the new digital technologies. But what we also did was, as I said, my team's responsibility was to improve customer experience. So we deep dived into the customer journey. How do we provide service to our customer? How does the touch points look like? And while we were creating those workshops of the customer journey, there was a common theme about finding information. Everything stops at finding information. So we identified that common theme with finding information, but then the question is how much time we lose in finding information, and nobody was able to put a finger on that. Everybody had a feeling that we had to, and that was not a common theme there as well, but also in the sales team, how do I get to access to the right information? So in general, knowledge management always has been theme, but what are the right tools and techniques to do the right knowledge management, and what are the best practices? It's a challenge for every company we see, like big organization has a lot of knowledge, but how do you manage that? But so this information finding and how do I manage my information, the theme kept on coming. In order to provide better customer service, I need to have right information at the right time. So when we started digging more into the detail of, okay, what are the problems? And then when I said the problem was basically so much scattered landscape that finding information is difficult, and we have new service engineers who are coming in who doesn't know where the documents are stored. So then it takes them some time to get started. So that's how we scoped it. That look, let's start here. And this is if we are able to solve this puzzle for service engineers and customer support, we can always pick it up and bring it for project management, because managing knowledge and information and finding right information in the shortest time possible is a challenge everyone in the industry is facing. So basically that's how we scoped it, and that was our starting point.
So to wrap up, I think this webinar, probably there will be more questions dropping in. Please do so. Use the chat or use the info@orangenext.com email alias to just spread your questions so that we can answer. As said, we will of course share the video, share the deck, and also share the answers on the questions that we couldn't answer during this webinar. I wanted to thank Bavik and getting to be here, especially also Bavik because he officially has vacation. So pretty much appreciated for that one. Also, I wanted to wrap up with a summary. We started with why is cognitive search so a possibility, a great, let's say, opportunity to, let's say, compete and win the COVID-19 wars that we are facing at the moment. We shared some insights along how BAM is using it, but also how it is used in the other organization at IHC. I just wanted to highlight it. Next week, same time, there will be a new webinar. My colleague Jeroen Donkers will elaborate on how to make IoT part of your customer's journey, and he will also be having a customer on board to share his story in that one as well. With that, I want to say thank you, keep safe and keep sane. Bye-bye.